All right, welcome back to lesson 2 of American history. We're talking about the imperial era of America. Lesson 2 is going to be about how America joins the quote unquote game, or how America joins the global scale of imperialism. It's important to note that, as the United States had been formerly colonies of Great Britain under the colonial era or pre-imperial era of Great Britain, since we were colonies, it took us some time to grow and develop into a nation that could exploit its own resources and gather the terrain that was at our fingertips. And we spread westward under the idea of manifest destiny until we reached the Pacific Ocean. By the time we get to the Pacific Ocean, we realize there's not much land left. We are looking, but all land on Earth has pretty much been claimed by powerful nations that, if we were to try to take their land, would result in a very large-scale war, one that we're probably not looking at winning at this point, except for, notably, a few Pacific islands, such as the Samoan Islands and the Hawaiian Islands. Hawaii had been led for centuries by the hereditary monarch, a son to a king to son, a king to daughter. The eldest child would take over, and the monarch at the time in Hawaii was Queen Lulukalani. We, in the 1850s, opened up trade with Hawaii. They were very fertile soil, had very tropical climate that allowed them to grow crops like sugar that we didn't have a ton of access to in the United States. The sugar trade did ensure that America had an ample supply of sugar, and American missionaries and businessmen traveling to Hawaii found very welcome arms in the Hawaiian people. Plantation owners and investors continued to pour into Hawaii, buying up land or improving the land that was there. And in 1893, when Queen Lulukalani receives the word from her people that they didn't like the white people, the Americans, not just the Americans, but Germans and many other imperial nations as well, as coming in and owning all their land, she claims that she will create a agenda on the next legislative document for a Hawaii for Hawaiians, that only Hawaiians would be able to own land. And this is obviously going to anger a lot of those American and international investors that had come in and spent a lot of their own money. One person in the chapter that's talked about is Sanford B. Dole, who leads the U.S. Marines that are stationed there in Hawaii to the palace and demand that Queen Lulukalani step down and abdicate her throne to Sanford B. Dole. The Hawaiian warriors that are there, the military that's there, will rise up, and before any conflict can really happen, Queen Lulukalani realizes that the American military is much more technologically advanced with our rifles and their pointy sticks, that she doesn't want to see her own people die needlessly, and so she will peacefully step down, but will bring it up to protest to the president of the United States, who at the time was Grover Cleveland. Grover Cleveland, as you might realize, is the only president to serve 2 non-sequential terms. He won an election in 1885 and lost an election in 1890, and then came back and won his election in 1893 and 1897. He was a very anti-imperialist individual. He believed that there was a process in place, that annexing this territory was not the right process. The Hawaiians themselves should choose to join the United States. And since they would not vote in favor of annexation, he knew that annexation was not the right choice. And so he will refuse to do it, although Dole will press his hand and force him to recognize the Hawaii under Dole's control, or the Republic of Hawaii. Grover Cleveland pushes this off, thinking that when he runs for his 3rd term, if he wins, he'll be able to address this more effectively in his 3rd term. Unfortunately, he does lose that election to William McKinley in his 1st term. William McKinley is much more of a pro-imperialist, and throughout the course of his 1st term will go ahead and annex Hawaii during the Spanish-American War. After the buying of the Philippines, it's deemed that we will need a midway point to refuel and to use, and so at that point he will annex Hawaii so that we can have better access to the Philippines. So in America, American imperialism is a result of a lot of different things. One, the Industrial Revolution, because we want more resources, we want more territory. And in order for us to trade and to acquire more, we need to expand and acquire that land. Alfred Mahon, he was a naval admiral, writes a book with a lot of influential facts from history that powerful nations in the past have always had a very powerful navy, and those with a powerful navy have the greatest influence. And so he's advocating through that for a larger, a more modernized navy. And since our industrial revolution says that we need more territory and that we're going to go acquire more territory, it only makes sense that we'd be able to protect those with a larger military. The second big reason is the closing of the frontier. Once we reach the West Coast in the Pacific Ocean, we already control California, we already control Washington, we already control present-day Oregon. There's no frontier left for us to just go to explore and to settle, and that kind of is a scary thought for Americans, that now we're not going to be able to just settle somewhere, we're going to have to go take somewhere. And we turn back to our roots. Our example for an empire is Great Britain. Because we were colonies of Great Britain, we rely upon them, and they had been the pinnacle of civilization for a couple hundred years. At one point, they had controlled over a quarter of the world's population and covered a quarter of the world's territory. There's a few things that we're going to model after them. The most important mentioned is the Suez Canal, because of the control of trade and the control of economy. And we will use the Suez Canal that the British control as a driving force when we look at building the Panama Canal. And with that, that is the end of the second lesson.